Sunrise and streaming on CrossroadsToday.com. The check cashing station at Supermercado Morelos was robbed at gunpoint yesterday. We're following the latest developments in that investigation. Turning out of the Crossroads, protesters gathered outside of Hermosa Plastics Point Comfort location for a worldwide hunger strike. We'll tell you the reason behind the strike and what protesters want from the company. And a new order is in place for federal agents at the U.S.-Mexico border. A temporary block will no longer allow agents to remove razor wire used to bar migrants from entering the country illegally. This story and more coming up on Sunrise.
And it's going to be a cool next couple mornings, but we're going to be warming right back up going into the weekend, and that's coming up in the weather.
St. Joseph Lady Flyers were in a dogfight last night. We have the highlights in sports.
You're watching 25 News Now Sunrise. Good morning and thank you for joining us. I'm Carolina Estrain.
And I'm Parker Cox.
And today it's the first day of November 2023. The time is now 6:31 on our Wednesday morning, and it's Prime Meridian Day. Parker.
It's a pretty important day, actually.
Yeah, could you explain for our viewers that may not know what the Prime Meridian is?
Yes, actually Prime Meridian is the latitude line that separates the eastern from the western hemisphere and the globe. It's actually not the same as the international date line, because the date line is actually in the Pacific Ocean, whereas the Prime Meridian line is out near the latitude line that goes through Africa.
Ah, and the moon and Mars, they also have their own prime meridian.
Yes, I think technically any planet or any kind of spherical body has a prime meridian because it's separating the hemispheres. So.
Well, there's our fun scientific fact for the morning.
Yeah, fun little fact for you this morning, y'all.
Well, Parker, how's it looking out there?
Well, it is actually quite cool out there, Carolina. Take a look at that live look at North Victoria right there. Actually, it's like I said, quite cool out there. Starting out the day at about 42. It's actually that temperature's been changing for the last half hour to an hour or so. Like it's been going between 39, 40, 41, 42 for the last hour or so. So if it changes again, you know what I'm talking about. 42 is that morning temperature to start out that morning right now with a dew point of 35, bringing that humidity to a 76%. So it's not too terrible out there with that humidity. And as we take a look at those temperatures for the rest of our area today, we're going to be starting out, like I said, in the upper 30s for pretty much all the area, maybe a couple areas starting at 40. Like it's 42 right now, so might have to change these. But we're going to be slowly, slightly warming up today into probably the low 60s today for all the rest of our area. But then again tonight, we're going to be dropping back into the 30s, especially in the northern half of our region. Definitely stopping into the 30s tonight, but maybe for the rest of us, maybe having just 40, maybe 40 flat, maybe just barely hitting 39 as well. But then tomorrow afternoon, we're right back up to the 70s tomorrow. And the really good news is if you don't like this cold, we're going to keep on warming up as this high pressure is going to return back to the Gulf by tomorrow. And that's what's going to give us that southerly flow, bringing us back those warm and humid conditions out of the Gulf. And we're going to take a look at those warm conditions and what they're going to be coming up in just a few moments. Back to you, Carolina.
Thank you, Parker. Gaza was rocked by a barrage of explosions Tuesday morning. On Monday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu made it clear that Israel would not agree to a ceasefire. Israel's military said it killed multiple Hamas fighters overnight and struck targets in northern Gaza as part of its expanded ground operations. As the Israeli military drives deeper into Gaza, Netanyahu is calling for the immediate release of all hostages being held by Hamas. He's also strongly urging other countries to support Israel in its fight. We'll go to Washington for the latest later on Sunrise. Federal agents will no longer be able to cut razor wire along the U.S.-Mexico border, at least for now. The razor wire was put in place on Governor Abbott's orders to stop illegal migrants from entering the country. The U.S. Border Patrol says it sometimes needs to cut the wire to save migrants at risk of dehydration or drowning. The restraining order to stop wire cutting with an exception for emergency medical situations is in place until November 13th, so both sides can present arguments in court. The Supermercado Morelos on Lone Tree Road was robbed at gunpoint yesterday. Police say two masked men got away with an undisclosed amount of money after robbing a check cashing station at the store. The two men reportedly assaulted a woman working at the station before taking the money and running off. Police say they were looking for two black men this morning. That's the only ID they have on the suspect so far, and as far as the investigation goes, it's active. The woman who was assaulted is expected to be okay. Police say no one else was hurt in the robbery. The Formosa plant in Point Comfort was the site of a worldwide hunger strike yesterday afternoon. We had a team cover the rally where around 30 people gathered in support of the cause. In 2016, a subsidiary Formosa company released toxic chemicals into the environment, impacting sea life and nearly 180,000 people in Vietnam. Formosa paid $500 million in damages to Vietnam's government, but to this day, many victims have not been compensated. The pollution devastated the environment. But while the community people and fishermen seek restitution, many of them have been arrested for speaking out.
Yes, of course, we want fair compensation. And another thing is we want to release all the prisoners who related to this call. We want Formosa clean up the polluted area that they made a big mess there.
Environmentalist Diane Wilson will refrain from eating and strike out in front of the plant until Formosa initiates some sort of response or a change. There are plans to expand the Port of Calhoun and the Port of Victoria. District 27 Congressman, our very own Michael Cloud, says he's in talks with the Corps of Engineers and other agencies about the project. Area leaders say expansion is key for economic development to continue in the Crossroads. It would allow for larger ships at the port system. Congressman Cloud is optimistic about the expansion, but stresses the project is going to take time to develop.
What we're looking to do in the Port of Calhoun is to expand the project, to deepen it, to widen it, to allow bigger ships in. This will expand the capacity of that port and allow us to be a resource for the world and really help the economy here at home.
Congressman Cloud says they're still looking at least a 2-year timeline for the full port expansion. A group of protesters demanding a ceasefire in Gaza interrupted a Senate Appropriations Committee hearing on Capitol Hill Tuesday. The protesters, with many with raised red-stained hands, sat in the gallery before the testimony of Secretary Antony Blinken began. Several protesters holding signs erupted into chants, causing the Capitol Police to remove them from the room. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click the notification bell. The time is now 6:37 on your Wednesday morning. Here's a look at what's coming up on 25 News Now Sunrise. Cost increases and high inflation rates are impacting current educators.
Tough questions for Israel after its devastating airstrikes on a Gaza refugee camp as the FBI warns of increasing threats to the U.S. I'm ABC's Justin Finch. The story ahead.
And coming up right after the break, we're going to take a look at that school bus forecast and that allergy report, and that's coming right up. Well, good morning, Crossroads. If you're all waking up with us right now, or if you're just tuning in, look at a live look at Aquaria right there, where it's quite cool and cold this morning. Take a look at those current conditions. Sitting at about 41 to start out your morning today. And with the dew point about 35, though, bringing the humidity to a 79%. So it's a little humid out there, but nothing crazy, of course, this morning. Well, if you're sending your kiddos off to school, about 39 degrees to start them out as they're heading out the door to get on that school bus. And as they're heading back home in the afternoon, about 3 or 4 p.m., maybe 5 p.m., 63 degrees is that afternoon temperature. And some sunny skies expected today. No rain today, so that's some good news. And if you're like me and you do not like those allergies, we've got some good news for you today. That tree and grass pollen is non-existent today, with that ragweed pollen remaining quite low, so nothing crazy to worry about for those allergies today. And like we were talking about for a while, looking at that 7-day, we're going to be slowly warming up here, going into the 80s by this weekend and ahead of next week as well. Maybe even warming up a little bit more next week as well, with those rain chances also sticking around on Sunday and Monday as well. We're going to take a look at that and more in just a few more moments. Back to you, Carolina.
Thank you, Parker. The St. Joseph Lady Flyers are moving on to the next round of playoffs. Our sports team has more.
At Crossroads, the St. Joseph Lady Flyers battled to the last set in the St. Joe Dome. Sports reporter Zach Brown was there and has the latest.
The St. Joseph Flyers took on Second Baptist in front of a packed home crowd with a trip to the regional finals on the line. The Flyers came into today's game as heavy favorites but dropped set 1. Desperately needing to win set 2, they found themselves down 24-20. Second Baptist trying to put it away, but a clutch dig saves the Flyers, who used a furious rally to storm all the way back and steal the set to tie the match at 1-3. apiece. The Flyers, who seemed a bit off, were fired up at that point and began playing their best ball of the evening. With the momentum fully on the Flyers side, they would take set 3 as well to go up 2-1, putting Second Baptist on the ropes. But they weren't going away either. After being punched in the mouth, they too would respond and even the matchup at 2 sets apiece, taking us to a set 5, winner take all.
Go all out right now. Every touch, every play, right here.
Before the set, the Flyers had a talk with themselves in the team huddle. They knew their season was on the line, and they knew they needed to step up in crunch time as they had done all night. St. Joe came out hot and got the job done at home. Their sights now set on the regional round this Saturday as they continue their push for a state title. Zach Brown, KVUE-TV 25, News Now Sports.
That's your 25 Sports Now.
Love that tie on, Gino. Thank you, Gino and Zach. All right, we want to invite y'all to experience our digital streaming service, Crossroads Today. Plus, you can find it on your connected TV through Amazon Fire TV, Roku, Apple TV, and Android TV. Turning to the Middle East and escalating tensions in the Israel-Hamas war.
This morning, Gaza's largest refugee camp now leveled and many lives lost after an Israeli air assault. This doctor saying there are injured everywhere. Many working hastily to rescue survivors, including children from the rubble. ABC News determining the airstrikes caused craters consistent with bombs dropped from an aircraft. The Israel Defense Forces confirming it carried out the strikes and that it killed a top Hamas leader and other militants. The IDF accusing Hamas of using civilians as human shields. ABC's Ian Pannell pressing an IDF official on why the Jabalia camp was targeted.
There were secondary explosions and that the subterranean infrastructure also exploded or imploded as a result of some kind of secondary explosion. And that there are quite a lot of casualties in the area, presumably
civilian. Sorry to interrupt. Civilian casualties.
At this stage, I can't confirm that. I assess that is the case.
Israel also bombing southern Gaza. Egyptian media reporting the Rafah gates could open to injured Palestinians today. The U.S. hoping the same applies to Americans.
Roughly 1,000 people who are stuck in Gaza.
On Capitol Hill, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and Secretary of State Antony Blinken urging lawmakers to approve defense aid for Israel amid several interruptions from anti-war protesters. Nearly a month into the Israel-Hamas war, FBI Director Christopher Wray warning about the risk of attacks here at home.
The ongoing war in the Middle East has raised the threat of an attack against Americans in the United States to a whole nother level.
And Secretary Blinken has announced plans to travel to Israel Friday for continued talks with Israeli leaders about the Hamas war. Justin Finch, ABC News, Washington.
Cost increases and high inflation rates are impacting our area educators. The local school district, Victoria ISD, wants a plan to get more money into teachers' pockets. The school district is inviting the community to several public hearings regarding pay raises for teachers and staff. The school district's teachers are paid less than the state average and less than some area districts. The school district wants to allocate funds for teachers, staff, and even for some of their buildings. The deputy superintendent says they want to hear from the community.
Do we put them on the side of pay increases, or do we put them on the side of building facilities? Right now, we've been trying to do both, and we want to know, is that what the community wants?
The public hearing started Monday, and another meeting is on Monday, November 6th. It's at 5:30 at STEM Middle School cafeteria, and the following one is Monday, November 13th. That's at 5:30 p.m. at Smith STEM Academy cafeteria. Come to crossroadstoday.com to learn more. And let's take a look at our viewer poll. We have a viewer poll dedicated to voting. Early voting is in full swing. We want to know, have you voted yet? Okay, let's take a look. 34% of you, good work, say yes, you have. And then 34% of you say, no, you have not. And 32% of you, I'm right there with you, say you plan to. We want to keep hearing from y'all. Come to crossroadstoday.com/vote to keep taking part in our viewer poll. The time is now 6:46 on your Wednesday morning. Still to come, the U.S. infant mortality rate is up for the first time in more than 20 years.
Well, good morning, Crossroads. If you're all waking up with us this morning, it is quite cool, as you tell by those temperatures out there. And that actually leads to today's weather poll. Today's weather poll asks, do you have your heater turned on at your house today? Let's take a look. 56% of y'all are saying, yes, you do have your heater turned on. I'm actually one of those 56%. I have my heater on full blast at home, so when I get home, it is nice and warm when I get home. And no, about 44% of y'all rather are saying, no, you do not have that heater turned on. Maybe you even have the AC turned on, because I know some of y'all love that cold weather. To vote on today's weather poll, go to crossroadstoday.com/vote-weather to participate and see what else has their heater on. We're going to take a look at those temperatures we got for the rest of the day. We're going to start out here in the upper 30s, maybe low 40s, because we're actually 42 right now. But we're going to be warming up just slightly into the 60s, low 60s rather, today, and they're going to cool right back off into the 30s again overnight. And actually, maybe the northern areas might see where those 30s are. And then maybe here in the southern half, we might see the 40s and definitely 50s down here along the coast. And then tomorrow afternoon, we're going to be heating right back up to the 70s, 70s in most of the area at least, maybe upper 60s in the northern areas. And then tomorrow night, we'll be dropping back, like I said, into the 30s like I was talking about. And like I said, we're going to, if you don't like that cold weather, don't worry, there's some good news, because like I said, we're going to be heating up a lot going into this weekend. So we're going to have this high pressure that's going to move down into the Gulf, giving us those warm temperatures, warm and humid conditions coming back to our area by this weekend and ahead of next week as well. And we're going to take a look at those warmer conditions and those rain chances for this weekend in just a few more moments. Back to you, Carolina.
Thank you, Parker. The U.S. infant mortality rate is up for the first time in more than 20 years. That's from a report released Wednesday by the National Center for Health Statistics. It found the overall infant mortality rate rose by 3% from 2021 to 2022. Experts say infant mortality is often a useful benchmark for a country's health system at large, but say this rise could be an isolated case or a sign of an underlying health care issue. They will need to see next year's data to be certain. The increase in infant mortality could also be a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. The data shows that race also appears to have played a role, as different racial groups experience different rates of infant mortality. In New York, a national shortage of half-pint milk cartons is affecting schools in the greater Rochester area. The Upstate Niagara Cooperative Dairy Plant in Lancaster says a significant container supplier is experiencing a shortage, making them unable to fulfill local orders of small cartons. On Tuesday, the U.S. Department of Agriculture announced schools are authorized to provide alternatives to fluid milk at school lunches if they cannot provide milk. School districts are considering other options to serve milk, like using plastic containers and pouring milk from gallon jugs into cups. For now, the shortage is not affecting Western New York, but school districts are discussing what to do once it hits the area. The shortage could last until the start of the next year. Still to come on Sunrise News to know before you go. A security guard was hurt following the shooting at a mall in San Antonio. A security guard was hurt following a shooting at a mall in San Antonio on Tuesday. It happened around 8 p.m. at the North Star Mall at Macy's. Police say a man in his 40s and a woman were attempting to shoplift when a loss prevention officer confronted them at the entrance of the store. The man then shot the officer in the leg and fled. Officers located the loss prevention officer inside of a storage room. She was taken to a local hospital where she is said to be in a stable condition. Both attempted shoplifters remain at large. A Cornell University student was arrested in connection with anti-Semitic threats on campus. Federal prosecutors have filed charges against 21-year-old Patrick Dye. Dye, a junior at the university, reportedly posted comments on an online discussion site calling for the deaths of Jewish people, saying he was going to shoot up 104 West, a building frequented by Jewish students. In another post made by Dye, he reportedly threatened to stab and slit the throat of any Jewish men and throw any Jewish women off a cliff. The charges filed against Dai could carry a maximum sentence of 5 years in prison and a fine of up to $250,000. Dai is expected to appear in federal court today. A home destroyed by a fire on Meadowlark Street. It happened Monday at around 1:23 a.m. The Victoria Fire Department responded in the 2800 block of Meadowlark Street that's near North Ben Wilson Street and Moontree Road. The City of Victoria and AEP Texas have wrapped up a second phase of the citywide lighting project during the past year and a half. AEP has replaced almost 3,700 amber high-pressure sodium streetlights and about 85% of streetlights in Victoria with bright white LED models. AEP is still replacing 360 lights on the north side of Victoria. Those remaining lights will be upgraded by the end of the year. U.S. Representative Kay Granger, who chairs the powerful House Appropriations Committee, is preparing to announce she will not run again. That's according to a source close to her. The Fort Worth Republican has served in Congress for more than 2 decades. Read the story by the Texas Tribune on our website, crossroadstoday.com. And we want to invite y'all to experience our digital streaming service, Crossroads Today Plus. You can find it on your connected TV through Amazon Fire TV, Roku, Apple TV, and Android TV. Just search Crossroads Today Plus. And we have time for a final check of our forecast with Parker.
Thanks, Carolina, and good morning. If y'all are tuning in with us right now, if you're waking up with us or you're about to head out the door, it's quite cool up there. You might want to put a jacket on. 41 degrees. It started out that morning right now with the dew point of 34, bringing the humidity to a 76%. So it is quite cool up there. You might want to bundle up out there. Like I said, we're starting out in the upper 30s, maybe some 40s right now, but we're going to be warming up just a little bit today into the 60s. So it's going to be a nice fair day today. But then again, overnight tonight, we're going to be dropping back into the 30s, especially the northern areas are going to be hitting those 30s again. Maybe around our area in the Crossroads, maybe hitting 40s, maybe just barely tapping into the 30s, 39. But then afternoon tomorrow, we're going to be rising back up to the 70s, making it a nice day tomorrow. And if you don't like that cold weather that's been sticking around, good news, that high pressure is going to return back to the Gulf, giving us that southerly flow, giving us those warm and humid conditions coming up by this weekend. If you take a look at that 7-day, we're going to be warming up just ever so slightly over the next few days going into the weekend, and 80s are in the forecast for this weekend and next weekend, with some rain chances maybe sticking around as well. That's it for the weather. We'll have more tomorrow. Back to you, Carolina.
Well, Parker, we're looking so forward to these warmer temperatures. Our South Texans were a little shocked with the cold weather we've been having. All right, well, thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful Wednesday. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today, and join the evening news team for 25 News Now at 5, 6, and 10.